and I'm very excited to talk about this subject. My name is John Robinson, for those of you that may not know, and I am really excited about talking about money. Um, you know, we live in very, very active times today. And can y'all hear me good? We Y'all got me? All right. We live in very active times today, and there's a lot going on with the money. Um, I'm going to try to take it real slow, real easy with this whole money thing, and so that we can really understand. This really kind of baffled me for quite some time, and I'm still dealing with it, but we're going to work through this slowly. I found out that when it comes to money, a lot of people like to make it seem so complicated, so hard to understand. And the bottom line is, if you just take a little bit of time, we can figure it out. So here we go. Last week we talked about uh, interest being the name of the game. I don't know if some of you guys were here, you remember that. We talked about interest being the name of the game. This week, part two, we're going to talk about compounding versus simple interest. All right. So I'm sure you guys have heard about that, right? You've heard about compounding interest versus simple interest. But we're going to jump into it and we go through some basics, right? So for the longest time, we always taught that the bank was for growing our money and keeping it safe, right? That's a misconception. But the truth is, banks use your money to make money. Banks use your money to make money. And in return, they give you the convenience of being able to move money around. They use your money to make money, and they give you the convenience of being able to move money around. I say that because I have dealt with banks for quite some time now, not just personally, but commercially. I have a couple of commercial accounts, and so I've had the privilege of dealing with banks for some time now. Um, One very good piece of advice that I got early on is that you must take time to know your banker. I was told everyone has a banker. Did y'all know that? Every single account has a banker assigned to them. Now, if you never take the time to meet your banker, you're just another number. That's it, just another account number. But if you would take the time to meet your banker, now you can really do banking. And I'll tell you guys the benefit of that. But let's look at compounding versus uh, simple interest. And I just picked out a couple of slides because this is a lot. And you think it's just simple, two little things, but let's see if we can go through some of these, right? As far as simple interest is concerned, the interest is calculated only on the initial principal, right? Now, the compound interest is calculated on both the principal and the accumulated interest. So this here alone, just these two little boxes, I need you to split your mind in two. And what you got to understand about these two boxes is this. When they say simple interest is calculated only on the initial principal, what you got to hear is when the bank says that they're going to give you interest on money, right? And it's going to be simple interest. So it only giving you interest on the original amount of money, but the money that money is making, you're not getting interest on that, right? Now, when it's talks about interest is calculated on both the principal and the accumulated interest, then you're talking about a different type of account that earns money and puts it back in the bucket for that all that money to earn more money. All right? So now we could just use it as an example, annuity account. If you have an annuity account that's going to give you simple interest, then you put your money in there, 50,000, 100,000, whatever it is. Simple interest means you're going to earn interest on that money every year. That's it. Now, if you have money in a compounded interest account, that 50,000, 100,000, whatever it is, earns interest. Let's say it earns 10%. So if it was 100,000, that earned 10%. Now it's 110,000, and it joins that 10,000 joins the 100,000 that was there, and now all that money is working. So when you get interest paid again, it's going to be paid on the 110 instead of the 100. Does that make sense? Simple versus compounded. Interest is fixed for the entire period. So if someone say, I want you to put your money in here for 6 months or for a year or for 5 years, and we're going to pay you 5% interest, 3%, 4%, whatever it is, that's a fixed amount. That's on the primary sum of money. But that's not allowing that money to make more money. You're just getting it on that one sum of money or deposited sum, right? So the interest is fixed for the entire period. So if you have money that you're going to put to work for you, then you got to really think about, where am I putting this money to work, and what are the conditions under which my money is working? And besides that, am I getting simple or compounded interest, right? The other side says interest grows exponentially as it compounds over time, right? So the good thing is, if you put your money anywhere for any period of time, it's important to know, well, what are you going to pay me for my money? How much interest am I going to be earning? And the thing is, most people that I talk to, they only know one type of interest, and that's the interest that they're being charged. Or they don't know the interest that their money should be making. Does that make sense? I mean, we're gotten kind of desensitized to it, that we go to the bank, we don't even look to see what it's paying anymore, hardly, because they don't usually pay anything. I saw some information about banks paying 3% and 4% just the other day. And that's one thing that a person ought to ask when you go into the bank. If you're going to use the bank, you should ask, well, what do you guys pay on, what interest do you pay on your checking account? It's not only savings account, there's some checking accounts that also pay interest, all right? So the simple interest, it says better for short-term loans or investments. Yep, I sure don't want that stuff compounding on my loan. Make it simple, give me a fixed amount, leave it alone, right? And then the other is more complex. Well, first of all, before I get to that, easiest to calculate, which is true. They're very simple. Whatever they say they're going to pay in interest, that times your money, and that's what it is. Or that percentage times your money. If you have 100,000 in the bank and you're getting 2%, well, 2% times 100,000 is $2. I mean, $2,000. If you have 50,000 in an account and you're going to earn 2% on that 50,000, now you know you're going to be earning $1,000. So it's the easiest, the simplest to calculate. The other one is a little more complex, but often yields more money in the long run. So the question is, you want life simple, you don't want to be bothered and make less money, or you don't mind taking a little bit of time, right? And learn a little bit more and make more money. You got to ask yourself that question, right? So, like I said, you got to bounce back and forth as far as interest is concerned, because your life is affected both ways with interest. Number one, for most people, the interest that you're being charged. That's one primary way your life is affected. A lot of people go to school, they grow up, go to college or not, and they start in the work world and, well, I got to get a car, so they buy a car. That is interest they're paying. Well, the company has a 401k. If you have some of those around, some of them are still around. But if you find one that's have a 401k, now you're on the other side of the spectrum. I don't know how much interest my money going to be making. You want to look into that also. Now that interest is a little more complex, but still, it's compounded, right? So ideal for long-term investments or savings. You definitely don't want to do a simple interest for long-term investments or savings. You want to make sure that your money is going to be working the hardest it can for you, and compound interest is the way to go. So remember, banks use your money to make money, all right? So when it comes to which is better, it's a simple interest, best for short-term loans or when the interest rates are low. And then compound interest is best for long-term savings or investments because it generates more returns over time. So you're dealing with both in your life. Interest that you pay and interest that your money is earning. And whichever one you're dealing with, then you got to understand how the interest is supposed to work so that you are best benefited from that whole transaction. I don't need my savings with simple interest. I need it with compounding interest. I don't need my loans, my debt. I don't need that with compounding interest. I need that simple. Keep it simple, keep it low, work it out. So in this little scenario here, you invest $1,000 at a 5% interest rate for 3 years. So simple interest calculation is 1,000 times 5% times 3, right, is $150. So your money only earns $150 on that 1,000 in 3 years at 5%. Now the compound calculation, it didn't show up here, but it's a little more involved. But one of the interest processes that I like to help people to understand is when you're going to buy a home. All right? When you're going to buy a home, and you think about it, when you buy a home, let's say you get a $250,000 home. You put your down payment on it. You have a 30-year mortgage. And your $250,000 home 30-year mortgage is $2,100. Or I'll just say $2,000. Keep it simple. So that is $24,000 a year. Is that correct? If your payment is $2,000 a month, that's $2,400 $24,000 a year. So let me unravel my tongue and say that one more again. Simply, you bought a house, your payment is $2,000 a month. So in 1 year, you're paying $24,000 on your home. 30-year mortgage. If you're paying $24,000 per year, how much money would you have paid in 10 years? $240,000. Is that correct? All right. So 240,000. That means your home is almost paid up, right? If you bought a $250,000 home, you're paying 2,000. Let me back that off. Okay, let's say 2,000 is too much. So I'm going to say $1,500. Is that better? Is that a better? I'm sorry, people. I'm laughing at me because I thought, I'm going to tell you all a quick story. I remember years ago, I'm talking a bunch of years ago, my father-in-law wanted to purchase a home in the city. They lived in the country. And so he had his daughter in charge of that task. And and so she purchased the home and they're making monthly payments. And after about 4 or 5 years, they wanted to pay the home off. And they figured they've been paying for 5 years. So they know how much they've been paying. So, it's supposed to be halfway paid off. So he sends his daughter down there to get the balance so they can pay it off. And when they tell her the balance is like, you're just getting started. What? We paid all this money. And the banker said, well, okay, sit down. Let me explain compound interest to you. Let me explain how this works. We were blown away. So anyway, $1,500 times 12 is $18,000. Y'all like that rate better? $1,500. You think you could pay $1,500 for a $250,000 home? What y'all think? No? So I'm giving you a cheap home, right? Well, even if you did that, $18,000 a year, you multiply that times 10, you have $180,000 that you have paid in. Does that mean your home is almost paid up after 10 years, 30-year mortgage? No. You got 2 more of those 10-year periods. So if you just look at this bad example, if I multiply 180,000 times 3, because you have 3 10-year periods in 30 years. You have 3 10-year periods. The first 10 years, you paid 180,000. The second 10 years, another 180,000. And then because your payment is $1,500 a month for 30 years. If I multiply it times 3, your $250,000 home is going to cost you $540,000. Now that's what interest is all about. But look, $540,000 is not the cost of the home. It's the cost of time. It's the cost of using somebody's money over a 30-year period. Does that make sense? And so the bottom line is interest is the name of the game. We've got interest coming in one direction and going in another. The key is to have more interest coming in than you're paying out. Does that make sense? To have more interest coming in than you're paying out. Sadly, for the most part, most people have more interest going out than coming in. How is that? Well, we got $300 in our savings account. That's making 50 cents a year. And but we have interest paying out on our credit cards, interest paying out on our car loan, interest being paid out on our mortgage, right? And Lord help us if we got some J.C. Penney's or some Macy's on a credit card, we got interest paying out on that suit, right? Or that nice dress. The key is to have more interest coming in than we have paid out. And so therefore, if you have a savings for retirement, a 401k, okay, that's interest coming in. If you have an annuity where you're saving an index annuity, that's better because the interest coming in with a 401k is great. But like yesterday, a lot of the tech stocks took a hit. They said that $1 trillion in value was lost from the stock market yesterday. I don't understand what that means. $1 trillion in value. Now, you can use big words if you want to and call it value. You lose my money, we gonna fight. I'm sorry, I should say that on. That's not nice. But I don't understand this value talk. If I have something that's worth 10,000, 20, 30,000, don't tell me somebody got upset and now my 30,000 is only worth 25 or 20. I don't understand that. I think about money. And so, but the interest world is a world that is it's a strong world. This is what makes the world go around. And remember, banks build huge buildings with the interest they earn from the money you deposit. They don't take the money you deposit to build these big buildings. They take the money you deposit, make money with it by earning interest on that money. And now they can build these big buildings, have these lavish lifestyle, etc., etc. So interest is the key right here. You know, earning interest is the key. You know, we're excited about bringing this type of simple information to our community. We want to be able to have conversations like these where we take our time, break it down one by one, so that we get an understanding. Because, you know, I read a book that says our people perish for the lack of knowledge. And I believe that the one way to get the perishing away is to gather knowledge about the things that are important to us. So I want to thank you guys for allowing us to share this information with our community. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody again. I'm going to expand on this a little bit more on Thursday because sometimes it's a mouthful, it's a whole lot. But I'm going to have some more examples and break it down some more because I believe when you see it, you can understand it better. So come on back, be with us on Thursday. Invite your friends, your family, and let's get this free information so that we can make better decisions and we can understand simple is not as good as compound, except when it's your loan. But you always want to have more interest coming in than you have interest going out. So I want to turn it back to my host.